Right, good afternoon everyone. My name's Owen and I'm from ROOT6 and I'm here to tell you about ContentAgent, which is a file-based workflow management system we build and make here at ROOT6. And really wanted to show you kind of how a DPP kind of workflow works actually for real through our product. So ContentAgent is really designed as a kind of a file-based management system for tasks such as transcoding and image processing, such as frame rate conversion. So it's really used to sort of deliver files sort of from rushes into sort of editorial. It can then take kind of master sequences out of editing systems and transcode them into all sorts of different deliverables for viewing copies, and of course now for fast-paced delivery to your local friendly broadcaster. So if I actually come out of this slide, let's just go into ContentAgent itself. So ContentAgent has kind of a database view. So this is where you'd essentially import clips to ContentAgent, or you could use a watch folder to kick off basically a DPP workflow. Now the first thing, once you've kind of got a file into the system, so ContentAgent can pretty much play back any type of file or decode any kind of file. So this could be a QuickTime reference file you'd created from your Avid sequence or Final Cut sequence in your editing system, for example. Or it could be a fully fledged sort of QuickTime file or another kind of MXF file or an AVI or anything which kind of is your kind of master file which you then need to turn into a DPP file. So the first thing you need to do is actually add the DPP metadata, which is a requirement to actually output a file. So we've actually created, so if I click on a clip here, for example, we actually created a metadata schema, as we called it, specifically for DPP down here. So if I just pop out of here and go back to this clip, here I've got a DPP file, for example, and the ones, the fields with little asterisks are kind of absolute required fields to meet a standard kind of a DPP compliant file. So this is a bit like if you imagine when you normally produce an XDCAM, well, an HDCAM SR tape or an HDCAM tape to send to your local friendly broadcaster, you have to kind of fill out some sort of record report. So this is essentially the same thing but sort of file based. So you have to type in the sort of the program title, the name, a little synopsis, kind of copyright year. There's some other sort of more generic fields you can fill out. And then you have to fill out some bits about the picture ratio used, which kind of PSC application used, for example. You could have used VidCheck or something like Hub, for example. And then you can type in some video comments. You have to sort of fill out track layouts for kind of audio and different languages. If you've done sort of loudness checking, audio comments. I mean, some of these fields are mandatory, some of them are more kind of just if the broadcaster requires them. And you can fill out things like kind of contact details. So once all this information's filled out, and you could potentially have used another application to fill out this metadata and create an XML file and then import that into ContentAgent. But once you've filled out this metadata, then it basically gets added into the clip, kind of ready to then actually be sort of transcoded. So in ContentAgent, we have this interesting graphical user interface for constructing workflows. And this is kind of a classic DPP workflow. If I zoom in here a little bit. So the way this works is on the left here, we have all sorts of different actions, or what we call nodes in ContentAgent, which allow you to kind of construct a workflow in any way you like. So you're not kind of hardwired into a particular workflow like some other products. You can very much build your own flow diagram here, which will basically create a workflow. So in terms of a DP workflow, we've created a specific DPP node to make it as sort of simple as possible. So the idea is clips come in from the left and get processed through to the right here on the workflow. So the first thing we wanted to do is, so once we've highlighted our clip we want to create a DPP file with, and we've added the metadata, is that when we want to sort of choose what kind of file we want to output. So because the DPP specification is very specific, there really is just two formats. There's an IMX50 file, MXF file for SD, or an ABC 100 interlaced file for HD. So here you literally just press SD or HD, so you don't have to set up any kind of, you don't have to go into a specific encoder and set up each time the encoding parameters. It's all kind of done for you. So one of the requirements for a DPP compliant file currently is you have to output also a separate XML file, but I believe that is going to change. But this is why we have a little checkbox to output an XML file. So what happens, all that metadata we filled out just now, in that other kind of window, that basically gets injected into the final MXF file, and also gets outputted as a separate XML file as well. So this tool basically does the transcode to ABC Intra or IMX50, it injects all the metadata directly into the MXF file, and then the next thing we want to do in our workflow is actually do an automated QC pass. So this is where we have a specific vid checker node. So within here, I've actually told the system to run a specific test plan for vid checker. A bit like Thomas was talking about a minute ago, they've written, the guys at VidChecker, a specific DPP test plan for SD or HD. So I've just got that selected here, and then also that actually outputs, once it's run the report, metadata. And the metadata basically says whether the file's passed or failed the test plan, and that's what this decision node here is asking. So a decision node in ContentAgent allows you to ask questions about the source clip, and depending on the answer you get back, it's either kind of passed or failed in this case, the report. So if it's passed, fantastic. What it's now doing here is it's sending an email to me saying, good news, this file's passed. I'm now automatically going to upload it to an FTP site. And you could also put this to any UNC path. So that could be setting up for an Aspira watch folder, for example. And the next gentleman in our little workflow presentation is going to talk more about kind of Aspira and WAN acceleration. But you can basically set up a complete automated workflow here. So it does the transcode, it does a quality control check, and then it can basically output the passed file to an FTP site, or it could copy it back into a specific folder here, which is what it's doing. Now, if it's failed for some reason, it can email me an email saying, bad news, Owen, it's failed. You better have a look at this file. But it can actually include a PDF report, which is a very detailed report of each problem it's found within the file. And then you can decide kind of what to do, whether you need to go back and do some re-editing, or in some cases you can ask VidChecker then can automatically fix the file if it needs to be a loudness correction, for example. But then again, I can also copy the failed kind of folder or file to a specific kind of failed folder, or I can copy it out to a network location to then an operator can come and have a look at it. So this is really sort of trying to demonstrate how simple it is to create a DPP file and actually automate the whole process. And that is the end of my little workflow.
Thank you.